Bella Vista Community Television presents Bella Vista and Beyond. Let's talk about it. Today our hosts are J.B. Portillo and Kristy Snyder, and we will be talking about septic systems.
Hey, good morning, Bella Vista. It's J.B. Portillo here and my co-host,
Kristy Snyder.
Yes, and this is the second of our new show called Let's Talk About It. Our topics are going to be things that are on everybody's mind right now. Mm-hmm. Today's subject is really on everybody's mind, and we're going to introduce our guest in a minute. But, you know, I think I want to start with something for clarification. Is that okay with you?
That is perfect. I think there's a lot of confusion in the community about the difference between these three
Yes. I'm only going to hold this up right now because we're not going to go into it in depth. And in fact, later in the year, we're going to have a whole show about this, what the difference between the three-legged stool and Bella Vista is all about. Today, the subject that we're talking about, septic systems, falls under the city of Bella Vista. The city of Bella Vista is our governmental agency, and that's where the police and the fire, street maintenance, code enforcement, which is where we will be today, trash collection, some other things. Remember that the POA is all about our amenities. It's a private, non-profit corporation. And then the third leg of the stool is the Architectural Control Committee, also a private organization. But that just sets the stage for later and where everything fits today. There is a lot of
confusion in the community about that.
That's right. So we have some incredible guests today.
Yes, we do. So Doug, this is Doug Tapp. What do you do for the city of Bella Vista?
Well, I work for Community Development Services for the city of Bella Vista. I'm the director of that department. We handle building, planning, code enforcement, trails, and we've got 15 staff that enforce and help folks every day with those different departments.
Now, how long have you been with the city?
I've been with the city since December of 2018, so coming up on 3 years.
Okay, so usually it takes about a year for people to get into the groove of their job. Do you think you've hit that point yet?
I feel like we have. I've gotten to know everybody at the POA, at the ACC, with the city, and I feel like we got a great staff now, and things are going well.
Okay, great.
And our other guest is a good friend of mine, Lloyd. Linda, just give us a little history of you and everything you've done and your background.
Well, this is my 49th year in real estate.
Wow.
I've also been a developer. I have a master's degree in planning and previously spent 4 years on city council.
Yes, you sure have. And you contribute so much to this. Today you're wearing your broker's hat, your real estate hat?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Today I am.
Good. Well, our subject today is very important right now.
That's right.
So I think what let's do is we have a series of questions, and everybody just feel free to probably not talk over each other, but jump in when you feel like you have something to say. I think, Linda, maybe you ought to start with this. How are septics regulated in Arkansas?
Well, that might more be a question for Doug because it relates to the health department and the regulatory things.
Sure.
Okay.
So septic systems in Arkansas are designed by private septic designers, and then they are permitted by the Arkansas Department of Health. So people that are building a house will go get a private septic designer to design their system. They'll send it to the city for plan review. We'll make sure that it's sized appropriately. And we will also accept their health department permit to make sure that they have the correct size system for the bedrooms in their home. We approve that, and then the Arkansas Department of Health actually comes and inspects the septic system once it's installed.
Gotcha.
Okay, so to be clear, the septic system's directly related to the amount of bedrooms in a home. So the size of the septic is that how it's directly related is to the bedrooms?
Well, it's related to the bedrooms because bedrooms are related to the number of occupants. So we want to regulate how many people are actually using the septic system so that it doesn't get overwhelmed and surface.
Okay,
Gotcha.
gotcha.
So what is the current issue right now? What is the current issue here in Bella Vista?
Well, what we're seeing is that since COVID has become part of our lives, there are more moms and dads working from home. Kids were doing school from home, so more showers, more laundry, more dishwashing, more using the bathroom, and so septic systems are becoming overwhelmed. I've had a couple builders in town tell me that they've seen more surfacing in the leach field in 2020 and 2021 than they had seen in the last 10 years. So that's a health hazard, so
Yeah.
we don't want that happening. So we're trying to make sure that houses that come through community development that get permitted as a 2 or 3 or 4 bedroom actually have a septic field that accommodates those bedrooms. The International Code Council tells us that if a builder says a home has an office in it, we take them at their word. So if we approve a 2-bedroom home with an office, we expect that room to be used as an office for the entire length of time that that home is standing and occupied. But what happens sometimes is people from out of state will buy that house and use it.
Sometimes sight unseen.
Correct. They buy it online, or the real estate agent they're not aware of the size of the septic, and so a 2-bedroom home with an office will be purchased to be used as a 3-bedroom, and you could have 4, 5, 6 people in that house that was designed for 4 people or 5 people. So,
Linda, let's hear this from a realtor's perspective.
Well, I do want to mention why Bella Vista is different.
Is different.
In most places in the county, or most places in the United States, if I want to build a new house on a piece of ground, I have to have a septic design that has a primary site and a secondary site. So if that first septic system fails, there's another place on that piece of ground to put a new septic field. In Bella Vista, the lots are too small. They were never designed with that. So Bella Vista lots can be built on without a secondary septic system. So what's happening is a lot of the lots in Bella Vista, which are fairly small, were never designed to have the houses the size that they are building now. So the
Okay.
vast majority of lots in Bella Vista, you can only fit a 2-bedroom septic with a reasonably sized house. So what's happening now, since there's such demand for houses, is builders are building what are really 4-bedroom houses on 2-bedroom septics. So that is
Wow.
creating a huge problem down the road because people don't understand what it means to have a 4-bedroom house on a 2-bedroom septic. They see a 4-bedroom house, they're like, hey, that's great, we'll buy that house. And Doug's department over the last year or two, at least 50% of the building permits, the houses being built are bigger than the septic system allows. There was recently a house that came through the multi-list. It was 1,600 square feet, 2.5 bathrooms, and it's on a 1-bedroom septic.
Oh my.
Now
Wow.
and somebody was paying $240,000 for that house. That's a problem waiting to happen. Doug's department even had an 8,000 square foot 1-bedroom house, which obviously has already had a septic failure.
8,000?
Right, but because they bring to Doug a plan that says bedroom, office, exercise, den, yoga room, the piano room.
Right.
Previously, his department had to take what the builder brought them. He couldn't say, no, these are really bedrooms. And that's the problem right now, that Doug's department hasn't had the legal authority to reject these permits.
Still.
Well, City Council is in the process of trying to change that. Now, I introduced something last December, and City Council is still working with what can we do. I think we've got it figured out now. What we can do is the council can give Doug's department the authority to say, this either is or could be a bedroom, and no, you can't build that 4-bedroom house on a 2-bedroom septic.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see So that's kind of how we're trying to solve it.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are some really good builders in Bella Vista that won't build on a lot bigger than what they can fit the house and septic. But there are other builders who are really being fraudulent they go into Doug's department, and I have one here, where they crossed off 2 of the bedrooms and made them office and exercise room. Then he went ahead and gave them a permit for the house on a 2-bedroom septic. Then when the realtor put it in the multi-list, they listed it as a 4-bedroom house, included a copy of the floor plan, which was the same as what they submitted to Doug, except it clearly showed 4 bedrooms. So to my way of thinking, that's fraudulent.
Tell me about the real estate, we're not going to talk bad about our real estate people here, but are they fully informed, and do they look into that sort of thing before they sell a house?
Well, whenever I list a house, and whenever any of my agents list a house, we go to the city, we get a copy of the plat, so we know exactly what is what. A lot of realtors don't know that they can get the plats. They don't get the plats. And even if they do get the plats, lots of times they don't disclose on the listing, this is a 4-bedroom house on a 2-bedroom septic.
Gotcha.
Even if they do disclose it, lots of them don't know enough about septics to adequately explain to their buyers, here's why you don't want to buy a 4-bedroom house on a 2-bedroom septic.
Right.
Because what is happening is down the road there'll be several options. Number one, it will fail at some point. So they either, if there's a lot next to their house, they could potentially buy that lot and install a new septic field, or they may have to get an alternative septic field, which could cost up to $25,000. Or in an extreme scenario, they may have to abandon that house because it doesn't have a functioning septic system.
What's an alternative septic system?
There are sand filters and drip systems. They're much more involved. They have a pre-treatment system.
Right.
We use them a lot in Pennsylvania when I was there, but they're very expensive. 25 grand at least.
I know it's public knowledge, so I can talk about it. There have been a couple of times recently where the POA has granted, because they had some common land next to where somebody needed a septic, because there was no other place. Somebody came in and bought the lot that they were going to buy to put their septic, and so we have been able to, in a couple of occasions, allowed that particular person to use what was POA common land.
Right. My understanding is the POA is allowing that on a case-by-case basis.
Case by case.
Only when there's a problem.
That's right.
They're not allowing
No.
builders up front to
No.
say, oh, well, I can
No.
only put a 2-bedroom house. How about I expand onto the common land?
Yeah.
They're not allowing that.
Absolutely not.
And that's not really a solution, because we don't want to have a whole bunch of septic systems running around on our common land either.
I know. And thank you for clarifying that, because you're right. It's definitely case by case, and it's a very hard decision to make for the POA to
Right.
whether or not to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Doug, can you just kind of a cliff notes, because I don't know.
Right.
I just know somewhere near my house I've got these things coming up out of the ground, and there's a leach field down there somewhere. And can you give us an idea of what a septic system is?
Sure. So a septic system is a way to disperse byproduct into the ground. So it works via evaporation and absorption, leaching into the ground. So houses that don't have city sewer or private sewer, there's a pipe that leaves your house when you flush the toilet that goes to a tank where enzymes break down the liquids and the solids in the tank. And then those get dispersed when the tank fills into a leach field. And what a lot of folks don't know is a lot of leach fields have control valves that you are supposed to turn on and off to alter where all the products go. And so if one side becomes clogged and you don't switch it, you can have liquid surfacing, and that's a health hazard. And so I recommend folks to look at their plat, see where their septic field is, and do some research so that when they buy a house, they can get an inspection on the tank. A septic company can come out and actually look in it and pump it, because you don't know unless the seller tells you how long it's been since that tank was pumped. It could be 5 years, it could be 20 years. So that's something that's recommended doing every few years, depending on the occupant load in the home. If you've got 6 people living in there, that may need to be done every couple, 3 years. If you've only got 2 people living there, that could go a little longer if you're not seeing any issues.
So it sounds like there needs to be education for people who don't understand that it's not on city sewer, and they actually do have a responsibility to that septic tank.
Correct. And recently, I've reached out to the Department of Health. We've had several meetings with them. So when the city started looking at this ordinance that Linda introduced, we assembled a roundtable of builders, real estate agents, appraisers, bankers, the Department of Health, everyone that's involved in that transaction. And we had 4 or 5 online meetings to get feedback, answer questions, and the ordinance since that time has gone through revisions based on feedback from that group. So we're really looking at something that will help solve the problem and also be appealing to buyers, real estate agents, appraisers, and the health department. The health department has agreed to come in and help us do some quarterly education.
Good.
So we're going to find a place in town once a quarter, try to advertise it and get folks that are unfamiliar with septic systems to come in and just have their questions answered with me and Linda or the health department or whoever wants to be involved in that process.
That's good to know, and I'm looking forward to that. So that would mean educating realtors, builders, the general public, anybody.
Correct.
You just put a lot of questions in my head, because my house was built in '05. I have no clue. I kind of know that it's by my house. If I came by your office, could I find out?
We can certainly look and see. So we have records back to, almost when the city became a city in '07. Prior to that, the ACC can pull plats, and sometimes they show where the septic field is with good detail, and sometimes they don't. So if you can send me your address, we'll certainly take a look at that.
I will do that later. I happen to know the builder. He's my brother.
Okay.
So maybe I can go back and
He
ask
should
my
know
little brother.
He'll know exactly where it is.
Exactly, he will. You're right. All right. I think maybe, because this is a hot topic, and these lights are hot too, by the way, have you noticed? But at any rate, let's take a really quick little break, and then we'll get back, because we've got a couple of other things that I think we can flow into naturally. Is that okay with you guys?
Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll be back in a minute.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Bella Vista Community Television presents our sponsor appreciation. Audrey's Resale Boutique, located in Forest Hills. Find the perfect item for your home decor. Beautiful collections, quality clothing, and more. Make your dreams come true at Audrey's.
Here are our hosts, Kristy and JB.
All right. Hey, welcome back.
Yeah.
This is really interesting to me, because I see it all the time.
Yeah,
and
something I'd never thought about.
I know. And I'm really thankful for City Council that they're trying to solve this. And thank you for introducing it. That doesn't surprise me at all. Now, let's talk about what is the issue with existing homes, the ones that are already there, not the new builders.
Well, although the issue that we're trying to solve right now with Doug's department is with new builds. After that's hopefully taken care of, we have to deal with existing houses. The first thing is, pretty much in Bella Vista, any house built before 1985 was built with a galvanized septic tank. Those cannot be pumped, and by now they are all toast.
Wow.
They have disintegrated. The chances of having a functioning galvanized septic system now, tank, is nil. You may see, if you see a big depression in your backyard, that's where the tank has collapsed. It costs $3,600 to replace those tanks. But a house built before 1985 with a galvanized tank, your septic system is no longer functioning because you do not have a usable tank.
And how would somebody know that, other than you said the dent and all that? What happens? What
Or
happens?
if a bunch of water ends up in your yard, if you walk out in your yard and you take a sniff.
The sniff test,
The
the
sniff
old-fashioned
test.
sniff test.
But be assured, if you had a galvanized tank, it's no longer functioning.
Gotcha.
Now, what's also happening in addition to the boom in new building is a lot of people, flippers and other people, are buying existing older homes and in many cases finishing downstairs, adding extra bedrooms without doing anything about the septic system. And the
Okay.
older the house is, the less well-built size-wise is your septic field. So we have the same problem where houses are being listed as 4 or even 5 bedrooms, and they're on 2 or 3 bedroom septic fields. So I think after council has helped Doug's department solve the new home issue, we're going to go to existing homes. And disclosure is a problem, and
Yeah,
right.
the same issue as far as too many bedrooms for the size of the septic.
But Linda, if they go back, I hear you, because a lot of people are closing in underneath like their decks or whatever and making whatever. Don't they have to go back to you, Doug, to do that? Or are they just not doing it?
They do submit plans to our department. If they remodel and open a wall, that would trigger an inspection for electric, plumbing, etc. Load-bearing walls, we want to make sure the beam is appropriate if they're removing a wall or adding a wall. But in that process, no, we don't go look at their septic field. We can raise that concern if they're adding a bedroom, but as far as inspecting the septic field and making them change it, that's not something that we've been enforcing.
Plus, they can also, on their permit, call it an exercise room, an
Right.
office, and
True.
then, so part
Recreation.
of that
A dog room.
will be
Yeah.
solved
Yep.
with the ordinance that council's now exhibiting. But it's not just a new home issue, it's an existing home issue.
Okay, so
But
there's hope.
We are looking at addressing that in maybe a future ordinance, once
Okay.
we get new construction underway.
What's the, is there any way to, and I don't want to use the word control, but I can't think of a better one right now, but when a builder comes in and talks to you, is there a set of criteria that, how do you know if they're a reputable builder
I
or
don't think
not?
you would know that, right?
Well, that's hard to know if it's someone that hasn't been building here. Then maybe they've been building in another city for a long time. But we do know the builders pretty well in town. Now, there are a bunch. We know the ones that are in frequently, and we know what kind of work they do based on the inspections that we perform on their properties. But monthly, we do get builders who, it's their first home in Bella Vista, it's their first home in Arkansas. They just moved to the area, and they've been building for 25 years in Texas, and so, and they'd maybe never built on property that needed a septic field. You just build the house, connect to city sewer, and you can build 10 bedrooms if you want it, and it's all going to go to the waste treatment facility.
You hope.
Yeah.
So those septic tanks, they need to be serviced. How often?
They do. Well, depending on the occupancy load, I hear 3 to 5 years is a good time frame to look at having them pumped and checked for enzymes and make sure there's no holes or they haven't been driven over and dented and collapsed. So if you don't know where they are, a lot of folks like to park in the yard, which is another issue.
Which is not, they're not supposed to do that.
Not supposed to do. Some septic fields are in the backyard, and then some, depending on the location of the home, have to be pumped uphill, and the leach field can be in the front yard. So it's a common place for vehicles to park.
A leach field can be in the front yard.
It sure can.
Really?
Just depending on where the house can be built on the lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes they push the house to the back of the lot and put the leach field up front. So
Oh, that's interesting. So,
I know.
I think I need to go have my septic tank looked at. But seriously though, I am a master naturalist, and I I compost a lot. I don't put a lot down my garbage disposal. I just don't, because it can go back to the ground, and you know it helps my plants the next year, et cetera, et cetera. But I think people may not. You can probably answer this. Somebody that's bought a house here and they've never had a septic before. Do you guys give them any sort of directions or like, hey, here's what you need to do? I mean, how does that happen? How do they learn?
Well, I have an information sheet that tells people how you should and should not handle your septic system.
Mm-hmm.
And technically, you should not use a garbage disposal with a septic system. Although almost all the houses in Bella Vista have garbage disposals.
Right.
It's not good to use that with a septic system because you don't want to put fats and
That's not
those
gonna break
kinds of
down.
things into your septic system.
Right.
And getting them pumped regularly is a good thing.
I think I need to make a phone call, Linda. Now, I haven't stepped out into my yard and got a funky smell. There's no dents, but now I'm kind of worried, just a little bit.
And as Doug mentioned, the distribution box, when I list a house, I'll get the plat, and lots of times it will have the distribution box. And I'll ask the people, have you been switching your lines? And they look at me like I'm from Mars.
Right.
Yeah.
Because nobody ever told them, or they may have been told and forgotten, you have to open the distribution box, which may or may not be visible, it might be below ground.
I was just going to ask
every
you.
6 months.
Yeah.
And turn, so every 6 months it goes into this set of lines, then the next 6 months it goes into that set of lines, so as to not overwhelm a particular part of the yard.
Oh,
So
interesting.
there's an awful lot of those D-boxes in Bella Vista that
Well, you
people
just
have
taught
no
me
idea.
something. I assumed that wherever the tank was, it ended there, and then the leach field, it ended there. But you're saying that it could be...
Depending on how the field was designed,
Right.
it could then go from the tank to a distribution or D-box. And in that box is a valve that in many cases you're supposed to turn every 6 months, so it alternates which lines it's going into.
Interesting. I guarantee you that most people don't understand. You know this.
Right.
Correct.
You both know this.
I don't think I can even put a shovel into my yard. The rock is so hard.
Oh, wow. All right. Seriously, I need to go look into that.
Now you're worried.
Now I'm worried. Yeah, for sure. I just thought of something that I wanted to ask in relation to that. Come on, Kristy, help me out here. What's another? Doug, what else do we need to talk about here? This is an informational show to get
Yeah.
people to understand the issue.
And you can explain
Yeah.
why we're not on public sewer.
There you go.
Well, so a small portion of the city is on village wastewater, but due to the layout of the city with all the ridges and ravines,
Yeah.
we don't have a grid block system of roads which could interconnect sewer lines and allow for easy passage to the treatment facility.
Right.
Here, most roads are one way into a cul-de-sac and one way out. So
Right.
each road would have their own line, which is very, very expensive to put in. And with the utilities in place, just not hitting an electric line or a water supply line to get a city sewer or private sewer line back to a cul-de-sac is a huge challenge. So it's costly, time-consuming, and very expensive.
Right, when I built my house, I had to go 650 feet with electric, and it cost me $10,000 just to go that 650 feet with the trenching.
And when was this?
This was 5-6 years ago.
Okay, so the markup on that wouldn't be too high right now.
So it'd be crazy
It would be
expensive.
probably
And the-
3 times that.
and
Oh,
the other-
three
Everything's
times that
tripled.
now.
Yeah, and the other issue with the public sewer is because of the topography, we'd have to have pumping stations all over the place. Because
Right.
it's a 2-inch forced main, people on public sewer, it's a 2-inch forced main. So you'd have to have pumps and this and that, and to cover all of Bella Vista.
Every valley
it'd be
would
just-
need a pump to get
pretty
it to the next hill
impossible.
so that it could run down.
So that's probably never going to happen.
No, I don't think so.
Well,
The
at
whole,
least in
the
our
whole city
lifetime.
having sewer, probably not in
Yeah.
our lifetime.
No.
They're adding a little at a time.
But they don't have capacity
And that's
our
got to be an
current
eyesore
treatment
then at
system.
some point too, right? If we had all of those pumping stations?
Well, the grinders are typically in the ground. You can see the top of it.
Oh,
But it
well,
wouldn't
that's-
be
okay.
a big, they just recently installed a little check valve over on Forest Hills above the new tunnel. You
Right.
can barely see it. So those are typically buried and
Okay,
they
that's
wouldn't be
good
an
news.
eyesore.
I just thought of what I wanted to ask you. You know, the septic systems, well, even the sewer, but septic systems and the environment. If I'm thinking of houses near a lake or somewhere like that, what are is that a criteria that you look at? I mean, how do we keep that from disrupting our environment?
I think that's monitored by ADEQ, the state agency.
Okay.
But you know, if the lot doesn't perk, then they can't
That's the right
they
word.
can't build on it. So
Right. The perk
lot
test is
has
key.
to perk so that the water, as they leach into the ground, you know, I don't know how deep that liquid has to go, but it cleans it so
Mm-hmm.
that by the time it gets to an underground spring, it's pretty clean water. The contaminants stay in the soil. I don't know what the requirements are on distances from lakes that are drinking water, but that's something we could look into. I bet the health department
I
who
would
inspects all
imagine.
of these, if there's
Right.
one that's close to a lake, they probably have tighter regulations on those.
Okay. All right. Before we go, we got to go here in a few minutes. Could we talk about if they want to talk to you about this more? Where
Sure.
are you? How do they get
Sure.
hold of you?
Sure. Well, our office is located at 616 Lancashire. We're in the Duffers complex there.
okay.
We're a few doors down from Duffers, and we're right next door to the city court. So hopefully you've never been to court, but we're in that building.
Yeah.
And conveniently, the ACC is next door to us, so you can make one stop and see both entities.
That's
Do you work closely with the ACC?
We do. We work with them quite a bit. You know, they'll call and get plats from us. We'll call and get information from them. So they do inspections as well. They regulate, you know, colors and design and things of that nature, whereas the city is more enforcing and regulating structural components of the home and safety factors. So, yeah, we do work with them quite a bit.
And the city website, could you tell us what that is?
Sure. It's www.bellavistaar.gov. And from that homepage, you can click on CDS, Community Development Services, and get my information and see all the staff in our office and their contact information.
And lots of other information.
We have all the
agendas,
agendas, all the minutes from
Yeah.
Planning Commission, City Council, all that information is on there.
And Linda, if they wanted to get a hold of you,
Well, Acorn Realty's in the same shopping center. We're between the Bluebird Shed and Duffers.
yes, how handy is that?
That's great handy. And the city council, what we're trying to do to solve this is to give Doug's department permission to say this room is or could be a bedroom, regardless of how you've got it marked. And that will stop a lot of this abuse.
Okay. All right, well, we can't
know.
thank you both enough for helping. Education takes a long time.
It does.
But this is a start, and we really appreciate your input and your knowledge, both of you. I wouldn't want either one of your jobs at all. So thank you, and come back anytime, right?
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you.
I actually
Enjoyed it.
learned a lot. I learned that septic matters.
It does. It does matter.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
JB Portillo for Bella Vista Community TV. Let's talk about it. And
Kristy Snyder.
we'll see you next month with a new topic. Thanks.
Remember, you can see this program on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at various times. You may also see this program on YouTube.com by going to Bella Vista TV. This has been a program of Bella Vista Community Television. Thank you for joining us.